Everybody, and welcome to this council meeting of the City and County of Swansea. The first item is going to be apologies for absence. Over to you, Chairman, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Apologies received from Councillors Matthew Bailey, Chris Evans, Robert Francis Davis, Joe Hale, Victoria Holland, Paul Lloyd and Leslie Walton.
Anybody else? Okay, if you just let us know. Okay, thank you. The next item is disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. I'm going to hand you over to Lucy. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Good evening all. Agenda item 9, Wales Pension Partnership, Local Government Pension Scheme, Fit for the Future of Business case. Members and officers who are a member or have a close associate who is a member of the local pension scheme then need to declare a personal interest. I will take such personal interest as a block declaration, please. Are there any other interests to be declared on the agenda this evening?
Councillor Phillips.
I've got to say, Chairman, that I'm an actual pensioner of this scheme. Is my interest the same as those who are at the moment just contributors to it?
I'm in receipt of it as well, David, and I've declared. So if that's a guidance, okay? Thank you. Councillor White.
Yes, thanks, Chair. My daughter is also a member of the local pension scheme.
Thank you.
And we claim personal interest in that.
Okay, anybody else? Any other interests? No? Okay. Oh. Councillor Keaton. Councillor Keaton, sorry.
Yes, Chair, my son is employed by the council and is a member of that pension scheme, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Councillor David Jenkins.
Yeah, I was on that scheme.
Okay, thank you. It comes under the block.
Yeah, I'm taking a block declaration. There's no need to state
Go
each.
individually.
I'd be grateful if you could complete the form and hand it in. Grateful, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, everybody. The next is item 3. It's the minutes, and it's to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record, and they're on pages 1 through to 27. I will go through them one by one. So it's page 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15, 16 and 17, 18 and 19, 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26 and 27. All in agreement? Thank you. The next item is the written responses to questions asked at the last ordinary meeting. Then we have the announcements of the presiding member, and there's quite a few items tonight. Unfortunately, we're starting off with condolences. It's former Councillor Charles Glyndwr-White. It's with sadness that I inform you of the recent death of former Councillor Charles Glyndwr-White. Charles served as the Mynydd Bach ward on the former Swansea City Council and the City and County of Swansea. He was a councillor for approximately 5 years, serving on the City and County of Swansea from the 6th of May 1999 to the 10th of June 2004. The next is the death of Councillor Tony Lloyd. Tony served as the Sketty ward on the former Swansea City Council and the City County of Swansea. Tony was the husband of former Councillor Linda Tyler Lloyd. He was a councillor for approximately 11 years, serving on the Swansea City Council from May 67 to May 1970, and the City and County of Swansea from October 2000 to May 2006. The next is to inform you of the recent death of former Councillor Alan Robinson. Alan served in the St Thomas ward and the City and County of Swansea. He was a councillor for approximately 8 years, serving on the City and County of Swansea from the 10th of June 2004 to the 3rd of May 2012. And can I ask you all to stand as a mark of sympathy and respect, please? Okay, thank you. On a lighter note, it's the King's Birthdays Honours List, and it's the citizens. These are the citizens of Swansea who have received awards in the New Year's Honours. Professor David Winston Ford, Professor of Informatics, Swansea University, for services to social science for Swansea and West Glamorgan. Susan Ann Horn, MBE, lately Head of Space Exploration, UK Space Agency, for services to space exploration for Swansea and West Glamorgan. Then we have Ian Price, Director of the Confederation of British Industry Wales, for services to business and to charity for Swansea and West Glamorgan. Professor Ian Stewart Whitaker, Professor of Plastic Surgery, Swansea University Medical School, and the Welsh Centre for Burns and Plastic Surgery, for services to plastic surgery for Swansea and West Glamorgan. The next is the member of the Order of the British Empire, the MBE. It's Rizal Hassan, Head of Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, Welsh Government, for services to community relations and the vision of a racism-free Wales for Swansea, West Glamorgan. Then we have Rob Gouvier, a member of the NRC Wales staff and the HMS Cambria, originally from Swansea, and attends the Armed Forces Community Covenant Signatories Panel. Then we have the medalist of the Order of the British Empire, the BEM. It's Karen Irene Morgan, National Lymphedema Clinic and Education Lead for Wales, Swansea Bay University Health Board, for services to lymphedema care for Swansea. Those are the end of those. The next one is the Royal Society of Architects in Wales, Royal Institute of British Architects, RIB Swansea Architecture Awards for 2025. I'm delighted to announce that the Harvard Morva Copperworks Distillery and Visitor Centre Swansea project recently won the RSAW RIBA Welsh Architects Award 2025 and the RSAW RIBA Conservation Award for 2025. The jury said, located near the River Tower in Swansea, Harvard Morva Copperworks Distillery and Visitor Centre is the first phase of an ambitious local authority regeneration project. Delightfully integrated with the Victorian structure, it is a mesmerising display of distillation, process engineering, and exquisitely made. These two awards add to the incredible haul already achieved by the Harvard Morva Copperworks Distillery and Visitor Centre project. The awards include Gower Society Design, the Bronze Award for 2022 winner, the RICS Awards for 2024, Regional Awards winner, Heritage Project, Inside Property Awards for 2024, Sustainability Award, Constructing Excellence in Wales Awards 2024, Regeneration and Retrofit Award, Regional winner and National Construction Excellence Award for UK winner, and selected as the 2025 Civic Trust Awards Regional finalist. Additionally, the Institute of Historic Building Conservation, IHBC, held their 2024 conference in Swansea, and the delegates visited the distillery, and the project made front cover of the yearbook. The next is congratulations to our regeneration team behind the revitalisation of the Palace Theatre on winning the Regeneration and Conservation Prize in the Constructing Excellence in Wales CEW Awards for 2025. The judges recognised the innovative way we were able to save a derelict building on the brink of collapse and not only restore and shine a light on many of the theatrical's original features, but also enables its modern use as a Grade A offices. The next, I would like to congratulate everyone who took part in this year's Urdd Eisteddfod, which was held at Margam Park recently. It was wonderful to see so many of our schools, both Welsh medium and English medium, taking part and showcasing the outstanding talent and dedication of our young performers. Special congratulations go to all those who performed on the mice and to those who achieved first, second or third place. Truly fantastic accomplishments. A huge thank you as well to all our school staff and the council staff who worked so hard in the lead up to and throughout the Eisteddfod week, many of whom gave up their own time during half term to support the learners. Across the area, 37 schools competed for the very first time this year, and we look forward to building on this success and supporting our schools further as the Eisteddfod continues to travel around Wales. Thank you to everyone involved for making this year's Eisteddfod such a memorable and successful event. And the next is that I am delighted to announce that the Wales Air Show, one of the highlights of Swansea's annual event calendar, takes place on the 5th and the 6th of July this weekend, and it's the biggest free event in Wales, attracting in the region of 250,000 people over the 2 fun-filled days overlooking the Swansea Bay. Okay, that's the end of my announcements. Thank you. That was a marathon tonight. Thank you for your patience, everybody. The next is the announcement of the leader. Over to you, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you very much.
You can't beat me. You can't beat
Mine
me.
are considerably shorter, you'll be pleased to know. Firstly, I was grateful to be joined by colleagues today at 71-72 Kingsway for the formal opening of that development. We were joined by the First Minister and Dame Nia Griffiths from UK Government, as well as a number of Welsh Government ministers and colleagues from a number of partners, including the developers and some of the tenants. As you know, we announced on completion that we had signed TUI and IWG as the first 2 tenants, and we were pleased to announce Futures First as a further tenant today. There was also representation from another potential tenant who we will announce very shortly, who turned up today to confirm that they have again agreed terms with us, but want to make that announcement themselves in due course. But again, very positive for us in terms of investment and new jobs in Swansea. We now have 80% of the building under offer with terms agreed or let, and we're very confident of being 100% let very soon. When we get to 100%, we will have created 600 jobs being hosted in that building, which will contribute some £30 million a year to our local economy. So again, my thanks to everyone involved in that delivery, specifically our team in regeneration led by Lee Richards. I did again today at the session pause to reflect on 2 members who unfortunately are no longer with us, that being Hugh Mowbray and Gareth Hughes, both of whom passed away during the delivery of this fantastic scheme. Their contribution to this city needs to be recognised. They are officers who are of the highest calibre, who give years of dedicated service, and I know they were both loved and respected by their colleagues across the council and the region. And again, as we discussed at Constitutional Working Group and then at this council, I was pleased to formally confirm that we will commemorate Hugh's contribution by naming the space between 71-72 Kingsway and the biophilic building, that new public space, as Mowbray Yard. And we will do something similar, bring forward proposals for us to agree for Gareth once we have completed discussions with his family. But again, I think something we can all be proud of. And again, just sad that unfortunately those 2 outstanding officers weren't able to celebrate that with us today. But hopefully the statements we've made will be of comfort to their families. On a more positive note, Chair, we attended the local government Chronicle Awards some weeks ago. Again, this year, for the 3rd time, we have been nominated for Council of the Year, the only Welsh council to be nominated. But unfortunately, again, we didn't take home the main prize, but we did get runner-up, which is great. Again, we're the only Welsh council there, and I think it's testament to the range of excellent services being delivered by dedicated staff across the council that we continue to be recognised. I do hope that the next time we go, we manage to bring the silverware home, but it is very good to be recognised for the efforts that people across this council are making. Likewise, very pleased to receive the performance panel assessment feedback. A number of members took part in that review. And again, I just wanted to share a few comments from the initial feedback report that we received, which was extremely positive. Of specific note from the panel were that we were exemplary or outstanding as a council in a number of areas, including governance and collaboration. And it may come as a surprise to some members who've been involved in some of the heated debates in this chamber, but they felt that there were exemplary and inclusive political relationships across the council between all groups, and that exemplary member-officer relationships, an embedded and positive Team Swansea culture across the council and our wider partners. They also pointed to the fact that they felt that service transformation committees were a unique way of involving cross-party non-executive members in policy development. That is something I know they're going to recommend to other councils around Wales through the WLGA. Again, similar comments are embedded throughout that feedback in a number of other areas. But again, I think everyone should be proud of the way in which this council is progressing and the way in which members conduct themselves and the way in which we do business, which has been commended. So very pleased with that outcome. And my specific thanks again go to Ness Young and Joe Jones for the work they did in preparing for that PPA review. I have to say, if you look around Wales, not everybody gets an exemplary report outcome, so we should be very proud. In terms of tennis, presiding member, members will know that Mimi Zhu from Sketty received a wild card entry to Wimbledon this week. Mimi is ranked 315th in the world and had the challenge of taking on the UK's #1 in Emma Raducanu. I think she put up a brave performance for her first outing at Wimbledon. Clearly a person to keep an eye on for the future. I think she did Swansea proud, and I would suggest we all give her a round of applause this evening. And then finally, we come to another award, Chair. I know you mentioned a number of them there. Palace Theatre, actually, since you had your notes, has won another award. So last Friday, they won the Federation of Master Builders Award. The Palace Theatre won the Best Commercial or Public Sector Award. The award was for an outstanding commercial building project or outstanding public sector project. The judges commented that this project is a leading light to other owners and councils of what can be achieved to save the country's landmark buildings. The project will now compete at the UK Awards this September. And again, my thanks go to the team that took on that really challenging restoration, have delivered it. We've got plenty of people in there now. Tramshed Tech have got lots of jobs, but it is also a fantastic way of saving our heritage and bringing it back into future use. And I know all members were impressed when they visited that building to see what had been done. And then finally from me, Chair, just to share with members a thank you from Councillor Robert Francis Davis. He's received many messages from members which he's been really pleased about. He is making a good recovery following his operation last Friday, to the point where he's back on email making a nuisance of himself. So again, I'm sure we all would wish Councillor Francis Davis a speedy recovery as he recuperates from his operations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Okay, the next is public questions. I remind you there are 10 minutes, and I believe we've got a question from, sorry. Where am I here? Oh, John Giles, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, John.
Thank you very much. I'll sit down because I think it makes it easier, and the lighting here is not very good, so it's a challenge for my eyesight. My question relates to item 9, Welsh Pension Partnership Report. I welcome this report. I feel that its reforms proposed by the UK government are an improvement on existing practice, and the WWP have responded positively to the opportunities offered, particularly in the relation to the investment in local renewables and public infrastructure like housing. However, as with any reforms, the devil is in the detail. My two main concerns are, number one, how it relates to fossil fuel divestment and the year by which you intend to be net zero. In Swansea, that year is 2037, and the Welsh Government target, as I understand it now, is 2025. So my question number one is, will WWG policy follow Welsh legislation and be in line with Welsh Government policy, both now and in the future? I say now in the future because we don't want to know what the next government will be in the UK or Wales, come to that. So the aim is to say future-proof it, basically. The second question is transparency and democratic accountability to local councillors, pension fund members and their trade unions. Indeed, the general population is important. What decisions are being delegated with decisions being delegated to the All Wales institution? There is inevitably a greater need for more open process to keep everybody involved and informed of what is going on. How will you propose to achieve this and indeed improve on what has gone in the past? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going to call on Councillor Mike Lewis, please, to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Mr. Giles. It's heartening to see such interest in the strategy and direction of travel of the pension fund. In answer to the first part of your question, the LGPS is regulated by the UK Westminster Government and is not a devolved matter of Welsh Government. Moving on to the second part, as outlined in the report, each administrating authority shall be a full 1/8 shareholder in WPP IMCO, and the proposed governance arrangements include a full shareholder board with the appropriate employer/member representation on that board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no other public questions. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is the annual review of performance for 24-25. I'm going to call on Councillor David Hopkins, please.
Yeah, thanks, Presiding Member. I'm very pleased to move the report. The recommendation is on page 31. I'm so pleased to introduce this Council's annual review of performance of 24-25. The report is a self-assessment report and it reflects how we've delivered on wellbeing objectives against our corporate plan and the use of resources and the governance and the effective line with sustainable development principles for the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act. So the third year that we've done this, it's very much a learning curve. This report has already been to scrutiny and to audit committee, and we have taken some notes particularly from that. What I will say, there's some case studies. This is all included in the report. It has very much been a fluid document, and I'd say it's the third year, and we are making, I think, some inroads into making it more easy read than certainly it has been for the last couple of years. So I'm more than happy to commend the report as it is, and I'm happy to take any questions. And what I will say, we will continue to build a fairer, greener, more resilient Swansea. I think it's a great way forward, particularly with the Future Generations Act.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Any questions, please? Councillor Rice.
Thank you. The council certainly does lots of things well, and I think it's good to reflect on that and to celebrate those things. I read with interest some of the case studies, especially the one which related to 71-72 and also the development in the city centre. I thought maybe there probably are other examples you could have used, because we're talking about the past in a sense rather than the future, and 71-72 is about to take flight. And when it in relation to what you're planning in the city centre, a lot of them are listed of things that are about to be achieved or potentially achieved in the future. I thought with 71-72, it was very interesting to hear the leaders update, and it's good to hear that there are people moving into 71-72. I think IWG are an organisation that give creative workspace for other people to come in and use. TUI, I believe, have moved from another location in Swansea into 71-72. And I'm pretty certain that First Futures used to be based in the Technium down on the SA1 development. So I'm hoping some of the new people that are due to be announced are actually new jobs into Swansea. But yeah, there's lots of things to celebrate. It's just I thought some of the case studies were maybe a bit premature rather than things that you have succeeded in the future with.
Mr Hopkins.
Didn't get a question, to be honest with you. I didn't get a question, but I think it's notable there is a lot of work going on within the city centre, and I think there's a lot more to be delivered. You quite rightly said, particularly we got British Home Sofa and delivery this year. So yeah, there is a lot going on, I must agree.
Can I have a seconder first before we go? Yeah, a second. Okay, Councillor Shearer, do you want to speak? Sorry.
Chair, just a point of information. I don't think Councillor Rice was at the event today, but I know other members were. Again, I think it's not just about making sure that we attract entirely new companies into Swansea, but that we're supporting companies here who might otherwise have to leave because there isn't sufficient space where they are, and we would lose them from our local economy to be able to grow within the spaces we've created. And that's what, it's part of the ecosphere that we're creating, so that we support people to start companies. And we heard a great story today about a Swansea startup that's grown into a potentially global brand. And then, you know, if we are investing in those people, we want them to continue to grow in Swansea so that we don't lose the economic benefit of that investment. So it's not just about new people, it's about supporting the people here to grow and be successful.
Councillor Stewart. Okay, the recommendation is on page, it's been approved and seconded. The recommendation is on page 31, and it's that the draft annual review of performance 24-25 is approved for publication. So can I have a show of hands in support, please? Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is the Wales Pension Partnership Local Government Pension Scheme, the LGPS, Fit for the Future business case. I'm going to call on Mike Lewis to introduce Mr. Dong. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I am Councillor Mike Lewis, Chairman of the Pension Fund Committee. Reforming pension policy has been a priority of the government since their election in May 2024. And our local government pension scheme has not been immune to that same policy review. The LGPS provides appropriate retirement savings for some of our lowest paid colleagues in the public sector. It is also the most cost-efficient public sector scheme, with employer rates averaging 20%, whereas other public sector schemes are on average over 30% for employer contributions. At this point, I'd like to confirm that members' benefits are unaffected by this presentation you're about to hear. The government launched their LPGS Fit for the Future consultation in November 2024, which my colleagues and I on the Pension Fund Committee responded to on behalf of this administrating authority in January 2025.
£25 for the Mayor's Fund. I'm looking after you, Cheryl. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. This consultation also asked the existing pension pools, including the Wales Pension Partnership, the WPP, to submit a business case outlining how they would meet the government proposals and criteria. I shall now ask Jeff Dong, Deputy Section 151 Officer, to give a presentation which gives some background to the LGPS, noting that Council rarely hear about the work of the Pension Fund, but also outlines the Wales Pension Partnership Fit for the Future business case, which was approved by Westminster Government on April 9th and forms the basis of this report, which I trust you will all approve. Over to you now, Mr. Dong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dong. Well, just remind you, you've got 20 minutes, okay? I've asked to be strict, so don't shout at me if you'll go run over. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dong.
As Councillor Lewis indicated, traditionally, this council delegates Pension Fund Committee decision making to the Pension Fund Committee, and this council very rarely hears about pension fund matters. However, in concert with the other 7 administering authorities in Wales, it was deemed appropriate that this report be taken to each individual council for visibility and for formal approval. For information, for example, the council in Gwynedd considered this report this afternoon, and last week the full council in Rhondda and Taff discussed and debated the exact same report. As I say, you very rarely hear about the LGPS in this chamber, so the chairman has asked me to provide a bit of background and a bit of context about what this report is pertaining to. So I've prepared a few slides providing a bit of background about the LGPS, and as you know, the elected members in this chamber are lucky enough to be still allowed to be members of the LGPS, unlike their colleagues in England, where that right was removed in 2014. And I know at least 56 of you in this chamber are active members of the scheme, so I implore the rest of you to consider your options in that regard. As I say, the LGPS is the largest public sector scheme in the UK. It has just under 7 million members throughout the UK. There's 15,000 employers and just shy of £390 billion worth of assets. And it's administered by 86 separate administering authorities, of which Swansea is one. Similarly, in Wales, when we break that down, there's 412,000 members in Wales, with 312 employers, including all the 22 local authorities, and we have roughly £25 billion worth of assets. And that's administered by the 8 administering authorities in Wales outlined on the slide there. As I say, the Pension Fund Committee makes and has been delegated by this council decision-making powers in respect of the LGPS in Swansea. And that committee is chaired by Councillor Mike Lewis there, as you can see. The Vice Chair is Councillor Phil Downing, Councillor Jan Curtis, now Councillor Sam Pritchard is on the committee, Councillor Ben Tu. And as you can see, it's a cross-party committee. We have Councillor Locke, Councillor Thomas, and also representation from our other largest employer, Councillor Rogers from Neath Talbot County Borough Council. Our member representation then is provided by the rotating chair of our local pension board, and that rotates on an annual basis between the member representative and the employer representative, and that's either Ian Guy of Unison or Councillor Ryland Doyle, who represents the membership on that committee. So just some stats about our fund here locally. It's 50,000 members, and as Councillor Lewis referred to in his introduction, the average pension in payment in Swansea is only £5,000 a year, and our identikit member is an average 47-year-old part-time female worker. As I say, you know, the assumption that the LGPS here in Swansea is solely for the employees of Swansea Council, but we provide the service. We run the pension fund on behalf of a number of employers, and you can see the employers who we represent on that slide there, ranging from the largest, ourselves, Swansea Council, down to the smallest, a little cleaning company, Mrs. Bucket, that provides cleaning services for schools. They're our newest employer within the scheme, with a handful of employees. So what is the function of the pension scheme? Well, our main objective is to pay pension benefits as they fall due. So as members retire and their pensions come in payment, we're obliged to pay those within regulatory timescales. So how do we do that? So we collect contributions from employers and employees and invest those contributions and those assets across a range of assets, including equities, bonds, cash, property, real estate, infrastructure, private equity, hedge funds, you name it. If it makes appropriate return, it's responsibly invested, and it's a sustainable investment, we will consider it for appropriate investment by the fund. For a long time, since I've been involved in charge of this scheme, the fund has been in deficit. So the primary objective of the investment strategy of this scheme is to attain full funding. And as you can see in this slide here, the progression of the funding levels during that period from 2010. 2010, the scheme faced an existential crisis in that government considered closing the scheme, for example, because the funding level was so low. However, during the intervening period, for the first time ever, the City and County of Swansea Pension Fund has attained full funding status as of 31st of March 2022, just shy of the £3 billion mark. And you can see the quite, stratospheric increases in asset value from triennial valuation to triennial valuation on that slide. So how have we achieved that full funding status? I'm proud to say that the investment management function and team of the City and County of Swansea Pension Fund has performed extremely well. As you can see on this slide, it's the #1 ranked fund out of the 86 in the 3-year period to 31st of March 2024. It's the #1 ranked fund in the 5 years to 31st March 2025, the #2 ranked fund in the 10-year period to the same, and the #4 ranked fund over 20 years. So both over the short term and the long term, we've demonstrated league-topping investment management performance, which contributes to that funding position that we now enjoy. As I say, that attainment of full funding status has allowed the Pension Fund Committee, as led by the chairman, to consider more holistic objectives as far as the fund is concerned. One of them being being one of the first funds to identify a net zero objective by 2037, and which involved the committee looking at and appraising the investment portfolio, where and how they could reduce greenhouse gas emissions across its investment portfolio. Also, the committee supported and commissioned some reviews into how we can investment assets more locally. And this is one of the local assets that we've invested into recently. It's the Margam biomass plant, just down the road, which burns waste wood, which otherwise would have gone to landfill. And you can see the metrics there versus gas-fired power stations. It only produces 60 grams of CO2 per megawatt hour, as opposed to 350 grams per megawatt hour of CO2 versus traditional gas-fired power station. So these investments not only provide an investment return for the fund, so we can pay our pensioners, but also help us achieve our net zero objectives and provide local employment, not only on site, but in the supply chain, which supplies the waste wood. Similarly, the committee have long had a long-held ambition to try and support the local housing crisis, and very recently, the committee were pleased to announce the launch of the Swansea Partnership as a £51 million investment into affordable housing in the area, plus also some social infrastructure and social care facilities. That has just been launched, and that capital will start to be deployed in the coming months. So that takes us across to pooling. But back in 2017, the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, determined that each of those 86 administering authorities needed to form an investment pool with other like-minded funds of at least £25 billion of assets, with a view to driving down costs and driving out economies of scale. As a result of that programme, these are the 8 pools that emerged. And as you can see, Wales was signed off as a pool, even though it was sub £25 billion at that time. These are the 8 funds that comprise the Wales Pension Partnership at that time. And since 2017, again, it's largely been a success. The administering authorities in Wales work collaboratively anyway, and have via the host authority in Carmarthenshire delivered largely across all the objectives that the original pooling programme identified. Again, in terms of local investment successes that the pool has delivered, here again, it's a battery energy storage facility down in Newport. The chairman and myself were part of a delegation that welcomed the pensions minister on site, who visited the site as an investment, as an exemplar of what can be achieved by working collaboratively in the LGPS. Similarly, collectively throughout Wales, again, trying to look to address the housing crisis. Swansea, this development is down in West Wales, and again, looks to deliver appropriate investment returns, but also have a social and community benefit at the same time. Similarly, this very interesting investment that we've most recently made collectively is into Welsh forestry. It's a 600 hectare forest in the Brecon Beacons, which produces construction grade timber. A little known metric is that over 80% of construction grade timber is imported currently. So, you know, to address the housing crisis we alluded to in the earlier slides, we need construction timber. And this asset very much delivers that locally, and again, creating and sustaining local jobs. So that just gives you a flavour of a bit of about the work and the successes of not only the Swansea Pension Fund, but collectively as the Wales Pension Partnership. Fast forward to November 2024, the chairman has alluded to the launch of the Fit for the Future consultation. Upon election in May 2024, the current government clearly identified pension policy reform as one of their priorities, including on the private pension side, but also pertinent to us, a range of unprecedented changes in respect of the LGPS. Three main areas that they've identified for consultation and response were in respect of LGPS pooling, again, rationalising those 8 pools into smaller number of pools of capital, requiring them to be FCA regulated entities in their own right, and requiring that 100% of assets be within pool management by April 2026. Local investment, they want these pools to be able to identify and facilitate and encourage local investment by LGPS funds. And then the third string of the consultation was how to improve internal governance of funds and pools. As the chairman alluded to earlier on, we were all required to submit a business case of how we, as a Wales Pension Partnership, intended to meet those criteria. And we successfully submitted that business case on the 16th of January 2025. And I'm pleased to announce that UK government approved the Wales Pension Partnership business case submission in April of this year. The remainder of this presentation will outline what's contained in that business case and outline the implications for us as an administering authority of the fund and what we're asking council to approve this evening. The day one minimum requirements of the business case were that, you know, we had to establish and set up an FCA regulated investment management company. It had to have the required capability to carry out due diligence on local investments and be able to offer in-house management and investment advisory services. And as I say, 100% of assets had to be into pool management by March 2026. And it was these challenging timescales and timelines which made the whole process quite a challenge. And largely part of our success was that we are very closely knit as a community, and we do work very closely together in any case. So the formation of the business case was quite seamless, and I had the privilege of leading that business case work stream on behalf of WPP. As I say, the fundamental question was whether WPP would build its own investment management company or be required to merge with another pool in England. And that jeopardy was quite real, in that two of the pools that we spoke about earlier on in England have been forced to disband, and 21 pension funds in England at this time are currently considering another pool to invest with at this time. So the fact that WPP have managed to have its business case approved is definitely an achievement in itself. As I say, just a brief slide about the corporate governance of Project Snowden, and that's how we've determined and given the whole project to launch WPP IMCO. There's a formal governance structure around it with the chairman forming part of the joint governance committee and being advised by myself and the other Section 151 officers. So the business case in itself presents a model for the investment management company, which is an evolution of the current structure, not a revolution. What the proposal is seeking to do is to put an FCA regulatory framework around current arrangements. So on your left-hand side here, members of the Pension Fund Committee will be familiar with all of the names and operators and strategic relationships that are identified on that slide. The proposal is to put an FCA regulatory wrapper, including a chief executive, a chief risk officer, and all the regulatory personnel required by the FCA around the management of the investment management company to continue delivering the services to the 8 partner funds. As the chairman indicated in his response to Mr. Childs, each administering authority will be a full 1/8 shareholder in the investment management company. And as can be seen here in the proposed governance structure, they will have full representation on the shareholder board on the right-hand side there, which will feed into and have direct line and direct sight with the WPP Investment Management Company.
Sorry, Mr. Down, to interrupt you. You've got 2 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. So in summary, Chair, the submission makes the case that the formation of the IMCO really presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a standalone LGPS investment management company for the Welsh LGPS for the benefit of all the stakeholders of the underlying 22 local authorities in Wales, 382 employers and 412,000 members. Not only can we continue to invest for those members and safeguard those pensions, but also we'll still have a chance to work with councils, the Development Bank of Wales, the Welsh Government, the British Business Bank in investing locally, driving the local economy, driving local growth, creating jobs locally, providing employment, safeguarding clean energy. This is a real opportunity to establish a serious centre of excellence in LGPS investment management, based in Wales, creating valuable career opportunities while enhancing the financial services sector in Wales. This ambition would be wholly appropriate for a mature, devolved nation like Wales, and from a practical perspective, would help us continue to deliver our obligations around the Welsh Language Act, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and the quite distinct and separate audit regime in Wales. So I'm happy to leave it there, Chair, and hand it back.
And thank you for keeping in time, Mr. Don. Thank you very much. Okay, can I call Mr. Mike Lewis to second the proposal, please?
Yes, thank you for a very in-depth presentation, Jess. And at this point, I'd like to move the item, and if I can, thank you.
Councillor Downing.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. On wishing to second the motion that's been put, I'd like to take this opportunity to not only thank but congratulate the chairman, Councillor Mike Lewis, and our deputy 151 officer, Mr Jeff Dong, for the amount of time and commitment which they've shown here tonight that they put into the success of the Welsh pension pool, but not only the Welsh pension pool, but Swansea pension fund over the years. This is also with the support of the Pension Fund Committee, who asked many questions, because as Jeff said, as he was going through it, the number of areas that we've invested money, and I'm just like to add that he never mentioned gold. But this is the second time that the Westminster government has looked at the Wales pension pool, and it's the second time where they've said that it's not big enough. And it's the second time that they put a case together, and this time with a business plan, and put it back to the government that we are big enough, we are good enough, and we have succeeded in what we've done so far. And of course, we fetched out the big guns, we put them across the Welsh-English border, and we kept them at bay, and we've kept our pension pool as it is. Whether the pools that haven't been so lucky will try and join our pension pool, only time will tell. We may have to keep the guns on the border. But I can recall around 2012-13, when I was on the pension fund then, when we were around 76% funded. And the black...
Excuse me interrupting, Mr Downing, but I kept Jeff to a limit, so can I ask you to just speed up a little bit, that's all. Don't look at me like that. I'm just asking you to...
What do you give me, Jeff? 2 minutes left. Yeah, I nearly finished here. The black hole, which had to be met by the council, which puts extra pressure on our budget setting at the time. And it was around 2022 when the fund first reached its 100% funding, and it has so ever since. And of course, the leader which does say when he sets the precept, or asks us to set the precept, how well the pension fund is doing, and is a savings of around, I would say, 5 million, maybe more a year on the precept. I'd like to finish by congratulating the hard work of Karen Cobb and the pension team that work around here in Swansea, who do a fantastic job for the pension fund. Thank you, sir.
Councillor Will Thomas.
Thanks, presiding member. And Bitcoin's the new gold, Phil. You know that anyway. So we'll be badgering you about that from now on. So I've very much enjoyed being part of the pension fund, and they put us through our paces. We do a lot of ESG training, as you know, and you know, our responsible investing has led the way with other pension funds around the council, around the country. We won an award for a climate strategy. We won Fund of the Year, and as one of the slides showed, I mean, building 700 homes locally is a fantastic achievement to ease the housing crisis. So I think the fund's been really well run. I think when Jeff came in to 2010, the fund was valued at 1 billion, and now it's 3.6 billion. So we're very lucky you're not on commission, I think. So that's a big achievement, and as Phil mentioned, saving 5 million a year for the local taxpayer. That's a lot of 3G pitches and parks. So we thank yourself and the team for that. It's really appreciated from everyone, I'm sure. I'd also like to echo my thanks to Councillor Lewis. He won't take any credit for this, but he did a lot of lobbying to keep the pool a Welsh pool, and I think he did a very good job. And I think everyone would agree here, if we are going to be forced into a pool, that we'd like it to be a Welsh pool. So well done, and I know you did a lot of lobbying and working hard on that. So thank you from everyone in Wales, I suppose. So no, that's great. What my worries are with this is that UK government seeing the LGPS as a bit of a cookie jar. And that they want to dip their hand into it and tell us where we should be putting our money and how we should be investing. Let's see where it goes. I think we've got a vote tonight, but we haven't got much of a choice on it. Let's be honest. So, let's see where it goes. But that is a worry, and I think everyone should keep an eye on that, because I think the fund has obviously shown that, we know how to invest well, we're trained well, the officers are doing a great job, so that it's working. So sometimes, change is scary when something's working. But well done to yourself and the team, and thanks very much.
Councillor Stewart.
You, Chair, I'll absolutely agree with comments already made. Pay tribute to the work that Councillor Mike Lewis has done, Councillor Phil Downing and the Pension Committee. Again, it's probably been about 10 or more years since I was on the committee. I think to address Councillor Will Thomas's concern, I think whilst there is a push by UK government to see more funds investing locally, I think that is the difference here. Because I remember from my time on the Pension Committee, we had investments across the globe. And I think diverting more of that so that it invests in our own communities where we get the benefit of it can only be to the benefit as long as the returns are good for the pension fund and for the people who rely on it. Again, I absolutely commend Councillor Lewis for the work that he did lobbying. That was no mean task. And just to be clear, that as Mr. Dong alluded to, pension funds over the border are not as well provisioned as ours, and there was a real risk that we would have been merged with those funds and diluted the strength of the funds that we have in Wales. So it's a big win for us, and I would hope that everybody supports it. And just finally, I think Councillor Holly commented on the same rumour that was doing the rounds recently on Facebook. There has been a bit of a scam going around that the pension fund in Swansea is not well funded, that people should be removing their money. It is completely untrue, as been demonstrated in the presentation tonight. So again, if members see that, I hope you will challenge that strongly, because we should be rightly proud of the work that's been done by our pension fund committee.
So, Councillor Rice.
Thank you. As the former chair during the financial crisis, I worked very closely with Jeff and the team, and as everyone said, they do a brilliant job, and we're extremely lucky to have had them in that time. And I think it was 2009 or 2010 we got Best Pension Fund Award for the growth that we'd achieved in that period. But I think it's important that we congratulate Councillor Mike Lewis and the team for pushing the Welsh cause, because I think there is a particularly good standard of pension fund management in Wales. And I'm sure you're going to have people clambering over Rothes Dyke to try and join, certainly with the success rates that we had. A couple of quick questions, one technical, I suppose, for Jeff, and the other one is kind of a reflection of Councillor Thomas's point. First one is, with 2026 being the deadline, I take it there's still plenty of fresh mandates and things that need to be sort of lined up. Is it technically possible to meet that deadline? And the second one, and is really my concern, is whatever political party is in charge in Westminster, now that there are larger funds and there are larger amounts of money, is the ability to dip into or affect funds in ways in which they invest in things which are not in the best interest of the pension fund members. Because there could be political motivations, be it Labour, Conservative, Reform, whatever they are in the future, which may lead people towards making political investments rather than financial investments on the behalf of the area. I'm fully supportive of the idea of local investment, and I tried to campaign for that before it was legal to do so. So I'm a little bit worried about that. And it was a watching brief, but well done to all the team involved in putting this together as a plan. And hopefully we will remain Welsh, and I'm sure you'll get lots of people lobbying to join. Thank you.
Councillor Rice. Councillor Dong, do you want to answer?
In response to your second question, Councillor Rice, the fiduciary duty remains with the City and County of Swansea pension scheme. There is backstop legislation which is going through in the pensions bill as we speak, which is still yet undetermined about how the Secretary of State can intervene in the business of a local pension scheme. It is yet to make its way through the House of Lords, and I'm sure your concerns about those intervening powers will be shared and debated fully as it passes through the House of Lords, and there will be some appropriate amendments to the bill to safeguard those concerns that you may have as it makes its progress through the House of Lords.
Councillor Phillips.
I'm in the same territory as Councillor Thomas and Councillor Rice, and I thank Mr. Dong for his fantastic explanation. I think, as someone in receipt of a pension from the fund, I am eternally grateful for Mr. Dong and for the management that we have. And I want to ensure that my pension and the pension of others coming after me is going to be as good as the one I'm getting at the moment. And I'm really concerned about the pooling to the extent of, are we still going to be able to make our own investments to achieve the same return? Because we are pooled with authorities that do not do as well as we do. Government, as you alluded to, Mr. Dong, might say, well, we're going to pool Wales with some authorities in England which are hopeless to give them a better chance. We don't want to be in a position of our money going to fund, support pension funds elsewhere that aren't as well managed as is ours. What is there any provision that Swansea will always maintain control over its own money and how it's spent? And that follows on to my following question. The government announcement about using local authority pension funds as a capital fund to develop national capital investment is all very well, but as I think Councillor Rice was indicating, the level of involvement or direction from national government, who has the last word if the pension fund or the pool is told to invest its money in things that the local fund managers, the local pension committees think are not in the best interests and will not best serve the future pensioners in the fund?
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Dong. Mr. Dong, sorry. I was promoted you to councillor, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to assure Councillor Phillips that his pension is safe. LGPS benefits are guaranteed by statute. They're not dependent on investment performance. That investment performance that I've alluded to in the slides, that investment risk is borne by the employers within the scheme. Members' contribution rates are fixed according to the salary they earn, and employers' contributions vary in accordance with funding levels and actuarials calculations projecting longevity, pay progression, inflation, etc. And we're required to have evaluation every 3 years. Councillor Phillips is right to allude to at the point, can we expect the same investment performance that we've enjoyed in the last decade or so? I would say no, only so far as it would be, and it's right and proper that the investment committee, the pension fund investment committee, have determined to de-risk parts of the portfolio. The fund is fully funded now, whilst taking appropriate risk to attain that full funding status, and they have determined to remove some degree of investment risk in the portfolio by rediverting growth assets into income yielding assets like housing, like infrastructure, which has income as the predominant source of return. So returns will still be stable. However, they won't be as high in absolute terms as we've enjoyed historically. But that's an objective of this fund as it has attained full funding status and as it approaches maturity.
Thank you, Mr. Dong. Okay, it's been proposed and seconded. So can I have, there are 5 recommendations. I'm going to take them all as one, if that's okay. So can I have a show of hands in support of the report, please? Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. And Thank you, Mr. Dong, for your report. Okay, thank you. Okay, we now move on to councillors' questions. I remind you, we got 30 minutes. There are 11 questions, so we're roughly 2.5 minutes per question. So if you can keep within that, we can get through them all. Okay, so the first one is from Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, I think we're all aware of the issues with refuse collection, and we're all in every ward in terms of miscollections and the issues with staffing, etc. My concern is, Chair, that almost a year ago now we had this in scrutiny. We were given assurances then. We were recruiting extra 30 staff at that time. We were buying new vehicles at that time. We were phasing out the use of agency staff, and yet here we are 12 months later with exactly the same issues. So my concern is, and the question really is, how can we be certain that the solutions which are being put in place now will be sustainable in a way that they weren't sustainable 12 months ago?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Black. Yes, I do apologise for all the inconveniences in the last 12 months. As you're aware, we have now got a new head of service, Rachel Jowett. She's been in force since February, and I'm very confident in her history and coming to Swansea. We are getting there. We had a couple of, as in March and April and May, we took a significant hit because of the two bank holidays. But May experienced a significant drop of 89.1% attributed to the bank holidays, as I've said. June's first 2 weeks shows a rebound, although it's not in the agenda, Councillor Black. It shows a rebound of about 94%, indicating that the recovery plan is having a positive effect. On the early dates from June, there is a clear improvement in waste collections. The performance compared by May, if the trend continues, could close with a completion rate close to above the 95 to 95 target. But I can assure you, I know my officers, Richard Jowett, Rebecca Tribe, are working extremely hard, and I'm 100% behind them with the improvement in the last couple of months. I know we dipped, but that was just blips as far as I was concerned. But I am more than happy with the way things are progressing for future. We have had an away day in the civic centre. We had over 250 people look for the jobs that we've created. We are looking for 10 HGVs and 36 operatives. We're in the progress of now of shortlisting them, and by mid-July, early August, we should have a full complement. So I'm looking forward then to be on track from there on in. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Black.
Just to say, Councillor Anderson, the interim head of service is interim at the minute. She's not actually. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she is interim at the moment, yes.
She hasn't been appointed. Okay. Oh, sorry. Sam Bennett, sorry.
Thank you, Presiding Member. On the refuse and recycling, I wonder if there's it might be worthwhile considering a change of practice around leaving bags of recycling when they're contaminated around areas where you've got blocks of flats, because where there are communal bin spaces or where there are sites to leave bins, what you regularly see in wards like Waterfront is just the bags being left there with the label on them saying this contaminated waste is why it's not being collected. But frankly, with most people in the area, once they've contaminated their waste and they've got it outside their flat, it's no longer outside their home really. they're not going to go back and collect it again. I think it's ever so slightly different to the way in which if it's left outside someone's home directly at the front of their house, because it's outside the front of their home. But generally speaking, with blocks of flats, what we're seeing is communal bin collections, just collecting more and more contaminated waste, which is attracting vermin. So I think we're passing the problem on to other service areas and of the council, and round blocks of flats is a real problem. So is there an opportunity to consider how we deal with contaminated recycling in areas where there are blocks of flats?
Thank you for the question. Again, we are going through a new strategy. We haven't finished it yet. Richard Jowett again and officers are sitting down, looking at it to see ways of improvement to alleviate your questions asked. Is that right?
Thank you, the Cabinet Member, for the response on this. It is good to see, and I'm sure residents, after 10 years of having moved into the area, will welcome that the progress is being made on the flats in on the parks in SA1. I wonder if the Cabinet Member could elaborate on the question, on the response here is, when did importation of soil start in the area? What guarantees can be given that the work will be completed in the timescales that have been outlined? And finally, did the council go to Sale to Wales, and if so, or are they yet to go to Sale to Wales, and if so, when?
I assume we moved on to question 2, presiding member. Yeah. So is that a question? I think Councillor Jones.
Yeah, Councillor Jones was waiting for. Okay, sorry, I thought you were. Councillor Jones.
Great, thank you. And I just say I welcome the plans that you're talking about. I've met the acting officer to talk things through. She said we were talking about recovery. I said we need a miracle, because basically almost every week refuse or recycling is not collected. In my Bishopston ward, I'm getting roads that we've got to go back over, and that can take up to a week. So I really welcome this, and let's hope that real progress is being made. And big thanks for the work that is going on to achieve that. And I know you are looking to take on more staff as well, which will help. So fingers crossed, eh?
Who is from Councillor Walton or Councillor Mike Lewis, Andrew Williams, anybody got any sub? Oh, okay, Councillor Bennett then.
I don't repeat the question. I've obviously asked it. Yeah.
Okay, thank Councillor Bennett for the question. I believe this was part of a press release issued, a political press release issued on the 2nd of June. I did respond at the time on that, and just to make sure that Council are fully aware of this position. I am surprised that Councillor Bennett is asking those supplementaries again tonight, because the information I have is that Councillor Bennett has been kept informed since January on a number of issues to do with the parks. He's been meeting Catherine Matthews, Landscape and Green Infrastructure Team Leader, who's provided regular updates to Councillor Bennett over that period. He's had regular programme updates in terms of where we are with the delivery of these sites and the 2 play areas. We know that there was an FPR7 report which has been recently signed off by Cabinet, which did that and has enabled the release of the 1 million set aside through the 106 agreements to do that. In terms of the technical aspects of Councillor Bennett's question, I'm more than happy to recheck, because obviously since his last update things may have changed. But I do have to say, and I'll say this as a political response to the political press release, is that I think Councillor Bennett may have thought he was being critical, or perhaps talking about the Labour administration not delivering fast enough in what he considered to be the area that he represents in terms of the parks. But actually what it came across as, which I hope was not his intention, was criticism of the officers who are working so hard to deliver those schemes for him, and who, to my knowledge, when I went back and checked, had been doing the job of keeping him up to date, as they do with members around this chamber, on the delivery of parks in their areas. Now, I am hopeful that Councillor Bennett will be happy in due course to see those two fantastic facilities being delivered. I think we should be very proud as an authority that we've committed to upgrade and renovate parks across the authority. I think every member has parks that they now have that are in a much better state than they were a few years ago. Some £8 million has been invested, not just to upgrade them, but to make them accessible for all children to play in. Councillor Robert Francis Davis and Councillor Stevens have been working with members across the council to achieve that. And I thought we were working in a spirit of collaboration. So I do hope that the Councillor Bennett will reflect on those comments. And whilst I'm more than happy to have the rough and tumble of politics, I just hope that the next time he wishes to make a political comment, it's clear that he's attacking the politicians and not the officers, because I will defend officers of this council, because I feel that they're doing a fantastic job to deliver for all of us on our parks and play areas.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, not necessarily a question, Chair, but if you may, I might just wanted to echo the comments of what the leader said. As one of the cabinet members who was actually sitting in one of the number of discussions with Councillor Bennett, I was quite taken back with the political press release that was put out. And I know the team across all our parks, but in particular the officer that the leader mentioned, has been doing utmost in order to keep the ward member updated and involved, including when we were discussing things around our £1 million invested into skate parks and wheel sports, and that we've done in order to further improve what is an excellent scheme. So I just want to second that. I'm not overly happy at all. So.
Okay, so question 3 is from Councillor Lyndon Jones. Any supplementaries?
Thank you, Presiding Member. We certainly, looking at the leader's response, we certainly haven't forgotten that we put forward the motion concerning the UK government's NI contribution hike. With businesses having to cut jobs, many will need to cut hours, freeze pay. How could we forget? But we certainly look forward to that response in due course. But we feel there has been a major update. Even Mark Drakeford said it leaves a big hole in the Wales budget. So we now know there will be a shortfall because Wales is being given compensation, but not full compensation. The leader said he's disappointed, so are we. Whatever way it's dressed up, this will hit public services, particularly schools across Swansea, and partly this year because of the compensation, which will alleviate part of that, but certainly next year. And there are real concerns about that because some schools have got good reserves, which they can easily dip into, but others have not. And I think that is quite important and something that we all need to be concerned about. Thank you, Presiding Member.
I'm not sure there was a question in there, more a statement, but I struggle to find it myself. But I would just say, look, I mean, to re-emphasise the point made in here, I think, generally, I think we've all made an argument for a fairer funding deal for Wales, whichever government is in London. I think Barnet isn't perfect, and I think we should all put efforts to seeing that being improved. I totally agree with the statements Mark Drakeford's made, but also welcome the action that the Welsh Government has taken to make more money available to help employers, public sector employers, with the costs of NI, which of course will in turn help schools. What I would say on Councillor Jones's position with schools, I think, again, we'll wait to see where we are later this year, but we're already currently the most well-provisioned schools in terms of reserves in Wales, and it's likely that we will see that position strengthened further, is my understanding, but we'll see what happens. But of course, as he rightly again points out, those reserves are not equally spread across the schools estate. But again, if you go around Wales and look at the position of other schools, they are in negative reserves currently, whereas we are in a very, very healthy position for our schools reserve. The other point I would make on this is, of course, if we're talking about fair funding for Wales, I was extremely pleased to see a real wrong being righted by the UK government in terms of the rail investment that has come into Wales. £455 million. In the 13 years of the last Conservative government, not a penny came across the border. So, you know, I'm not sure that the Labour government in London can do everything all at once, but certainly we were lobbying very hard for more money for Wales. The biggest settlement for Wales in many, many years. I think it's the biggest settlement ever, actually. And whilst we were somewhat disappointed in terms of the NI settlement, I think we are very pleased to see the UK government, this UK government, acknowledging that Wales was under-provisioned and poorly funded by the previous government, and they've started to put that right.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to talk about something else, but in terms of the railways, I noticed that the schemes which the Welsh Government are funding from that money, not many of them are actually west of Cardiff. But the issue I wanted to raise was, Mark Drakeford made a statement on Tuesday in which he said that the next year's budget was going to be effectively a rollover, fairly flat, with roughly about £500 million held over for the next Welsh Government. And the concern from that statement is that, that the local government settlement will also be fairly flat and not greatly increasing that. So I'm just wondering, has the leader had any discussions with the WLGA as to how that's going to impact on local government settlement for the next year?
Again, we work quickly in the WLGA, but even I haven't yet had a full discussion with all the leaders. However, I'm pretty sure our position will be as it's been in previous years, which is we will continue to lobby for as much of the Welsh Government money as we can for local government. I viewed Mark Drakeford's statement as a starting position. As it always is, it's an assumption for the year. And, you know, for those of us who've been in local government for a number of years know that you start a position and you hopefully end up in a much better position by the time you come to final settlement. And that's the way we're seeing it. And Councillor Black would expect me and other leaders to be lobbying very hard the government to improve upon that during the year.
Holly.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I hate to disagree with the leader and agree with Councillor Lyndon Jones, but I have to say there has to be some reality about this rail funding business.
You have a question, Chris, okay?
I know he brought it up, I didn't. Let's be blunt about this now, okay? The funding for the Network Rail in Wales has been appalling. But I have to point out there was a report by the Auditor General 2016 where he commented about the investment by Network Rail of 1.4 billion in the rail infrastructure in Wales. I think that's a little bit more than what our friend from Bristol, the MP, said we should be grateful for. I think it's a little bit more. Maybe wrong, maybe not that good on mathematics, but I think 1.4 billion over that period of time is better than what we currently had. I agree with what the First Minister said. It was an unfortunate time, the word in, and I hope that there is a comment in here, a question from one of our colleagues about it, and I hope the leader respects the question and follows up on what that question is. And thank you for your indulgence in allowing me to say that.
Likewise, I'm disappointed that Councillor Holly has to agree with Councillor Lyndon Jones as well. So we agree on that. But I think, look, I would see this announcement from UK government again as a starting point. My understanding there is more capital coming to Wales, and it'll be for the Welsh government to deploy that capital. As you can imagine, in the southwest region, we are already lobbying Welsh and UK government for further announcements, because we will be, as members know, the first region in Wales to entertain bus franchising, and there needs to be additional funds made available for that. We are only going to get the benefits of that bus franchising if we are delivering the rail network to go alongside it, and that's what we absolutely need. So welcome everybody helping us with lobby for that.
Move on to the next question then, and it's probably Councillor Rice here.
Thank you, Cabinet Member, for your response here. I'm sure that you would agree with me that the department does the best with resources that they are given, and that they're doing a good job with the resources that they have. Did the Cabinet Member know that on the current plans of resurfacing roads, they would take 60 years to resurface the roads on this plan? And secondly, a road on average lasts around 20 to 25, if you're very lucky, 30 years without resurface. So what plans has he got, and maybe the leader got, to invest more money into the resurfacing of roads? Would that be perhaps from changing the priorities of the cabinet and what it invests in? Maybe more roads for more money for roads rather than for blocks of office blocks? Or could he potentially contact the Welsh Government and ask for more money from the Welsh Government in terms of their road allocation, which I believe used to be bigger in the past? Thank you.
Councillor Stevens?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this question, and I know it crosses both myself and the leader, so he's welcome to come in as well. But just on the roads aspect, it's still the biggest ever investment we've put into our roads anyway, and not just our roads, it comes across all of our highways infrastructure, including lighting. And as a previous cabinet member for finance, who my understanding would have been around the time of when we were cutting street lights down in Swansea and leaving communities in darkness, we are actually looking, in contrast, to invest in our street lighting. I was younger at the time, but we're actually looking to invest in our lighting, as we've done, and as we've done with the outstanding scheme straight across the bay. And also, as Cabinet Member for Finance, he would also realise that not all roads are the same. There's different widths, different sizes, different surfacing. I could be here all night in order to be talking about the different things, to be quite honest. And if we go in particularly on roads, 16 kilometres in Walters Road, which we were planning initially to do some resurfacing there, but it was switched and reallocated to go somewhere else. 16 kilometres on a road the size of Walters Road is not going to go as far as 16 kilometres for Council Lewis down in Gower, which is single road tracks. So then you're going to fill that programme quite a lot quicker. So yeah, I hope I answered that, and leaders welcome to come in.
Yeah, I think Councillor Stevens said it. I've got to say, Councillor Holly's hit the nail straight on the head, which is cutting down street lights was a good policy because then you couldn't see the potholes. And I think it's not a policy we'd have embraced, but it's a unique approach to potholes. So anyway, back to some sense here. I mean, I think Councillor Rice will acknowledge that this year's investment in roads has been boosted by Welsh Government making the local government borrowing initiative available to us. We're making full use of that. That'll mean £20 million going to roads and infrastructure this year, and a similar amount next year. That is the biggest single investment we've been able to do in a single year for many years. Of course, I didn't have the benefit, and I haven't had the benefit of a Labour government up until now. Councillor Rice had that for many years when he was the finance cabinet member. And of course, we know, because we've seen the difference this year, that the UK Tory government starved Wales of funding for many years. So, I said before, I'm a politician, not a magician. I can't magic money out of the air. But what we have done is to make sure that we make the money that we have available, let's go as far as possible with the most impact. And a real good example of that is the work that Councillor Stevens has been leading on the 48-hour pothole pledge, where if people report something, we're out there and do it. And the team have been fantastic in that, filling thousands upon thousands of potholes. This year, we're able to do a significantly enhanced scheme, which will allow us to do major resurfacing, patch surfacing, pothole repair, some work on unadopted roads, and to do more in the communities that matter. So my suggestion, I know Councillor Stevens has already written to members, is to get your requests in, and we will do our best to make sure that we respond to those as quickly as possible.
Can I just ask Councillor Stevens, because it is very important. It's on about resurfacing, patching and what have you. But my understanding is that although we've invested more money into potholes repairs and road repairs and what have you, but the actual cost of the material has gone up by more than double. So the more money we put in doesn't necessarily we do more, but we do the same. And I think the reason, when we think that it's oil-based, most of it, and the way in which the cost patterns go and the transport costs. So if he can confirm that the cost of materials has gone up sufficiently to not allow more, but to allow the same. We say we do more, but there is a description around that that I think we should have a look at to see whether or not that is the case.
Well, yeah, clearly the cost of materials is going to go up as is inflation, as is everything going up, really, Councillor Holly. But we do also look at creative methods in terms of what we're doing with the road surfacing, whether it's micro asphalt, or whether it's a planar resurface, whether it's increasing the small resurfacing scheme, which you all benefit from in your wards. We're even looking at new methods in terms of heat treated tarmac and a few. And I think there's something coming to the SDC in terms of in due course into the economy and infrastructure SDC, where if you come along, you can have an input into that as well on the future of our roads and different resurfacing methods. So we're always looking at inventive ways as well on how to make the money go further.
Thank you. Move on to the next question, and it's from Councillor Chris Evans.
One very short supplementary. Would the leader potentially write to the local MP, Torsten Bell, who's Swansea West MP, and remind him he's a Swansea West MP and not a Cardiff West MP, because he seemed to congratulate the investment into the railways, not knowing that there would be any impact on Swansea whatsoever?
I continually talk to all of our representatives in both the Senedd and in London. I think the Pensions Minister will be holding on to his pensions portfolio, but I'm more than happy to raise the issue with him. But I think it's more appropriate that I raise those conversations with the ministers that are in charge of the portfolio that can actually direct funding into rail, as I've said in my response. So, as I've said, I think the investments by UK government are the start of the investments in Wales, not the end or totality of it. And we fully expect further announcements by Welsh and UK government into rail infrastructure, something we've not seen for many, many years.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just slightly change the focus of this question? It seems to me that the issue is clearly one of how much the Treasury gives you, but the real issue is that we haven't got the devolved powers in Wales. And that is why we're getting schemes which are being classed as England and Wales. So I think that rather than actually writing to Rachel Reeves, we should be lobbying the Welsh Government to reopen the negotiations which happened under Rodri Morgan to actually get that power devolved to us, so that future Barnett consequences will come to us as a matter of course as they're going to Scotland. I know we had an opportunity once and it was turned down, but I think we do need to reopen that, and I think we need to talk to the Welsh Government about reopening that discussion.
Yeah, it's a night of first. So I absolutely agree with Councillor Black. I think the one thing I would say, though, is as with anything, you do not want to take responsibility for something until you know the liability and the state of the railway that you're taking on. So again, in principle, I've always believed that Wales should be in control of the assets it controls. That is something I think we do, and I think we made the same, statements as an authority and as a council on things like Crown Estates. But I think if Welsh Government are going to take on responsibility for the railways, then we need to have a full compensatory payment, because if there's been years of underinvestment, that has to be recognised in any transfer to that Welsh Government.
Okay, next question is from Councillor Michael Locke.
Right. The UK government has announced that 445 million will be allocated for rail infrastructure in Wales over the next 10 years. Most of that money will be spent in East Wales, some in North Wales, but over that period, there's no provision for upgrading the Cardiff to Swansea main line. When challenged recently in Parliament, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Davin Jones, the MP for Bristol North West, made the outrageous comment, "You should be grateful for what you've got." Therefore, would the leader agree that the Labour and Conservative parties have yet again let down Swansea, the second city of Wales? Thank you.
No, I don't think so, because I would agree that we have been let down constantly by the Tories. And of course, at every election, the Tories promised electrification and a tidal lagoon, and then immediately after the election cancelled it. The difference with the Labour administration is they promised this before the election and they've delivered it. Now, as I said, this is the start of the investment in Wales. I know through the work that we've been doing in the region, the 4 local authority leaders and the teams have been looking at prioritisation of rail investment. We've been working very closely with Transport for Wales. I know that electrification of the main line to Swansea is back on the agenda. But again, I did not expect all of those schemes to be funded from day one. But what we have been able to demonstrate is, for instance, in terms of the metro route and the stations that would need to be created in South West Wales, those routes are some of the most impactful in terms of moving people out of vehicles and onto public transport. More than 1 million journeys could be saved by investing in the metro in Swansea. So we have a very strong business case, and we will continue to lobby for funding out of both Welsh and UK government to do this. Members will recall that when we were negotiating the city deal, we were advised not to include transport in that by colleagues in UK government because we were negotiating the electrification of the railways separately at the time. And strangely enough, after the election, electrification was then taken away from us and cancelled. So again, it's important that we now work with both governments in a sensible way to ensure that we get the investment both for electrification and for the metro, because I think the metro will be even more impactful for our region in terms of getting our communities around to the places where they work.
Okay, the next question is from Councillor Mike Lewis.
Presiding Member, could I just seek some legal advice, please? Just on this particular answer and to the question that's been posed. I'm Chair of Trustees of Sketty Food Bank, and I've just been notified by email that we've been in receipt of the grant under the emergency food aid. Do I need to declare an interest?
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor White. I can't see who you're pointing to. It's your question. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no supplementaries.
No supplementaries.
Yeah, mine isn't on this.
Okay, the time is up. The 30 minutes is up. Okay, folks. So that's the end of the questions. And that's the end of the agenda. So thank you all for your attendance. Okay, thank you.
It's weird, the mic's just